After sending the text, the siblings joyfully walked home, laughing and chatting. Meanwhile, in the new recruit training camp in the Eastern Military District, it wasn't so joyful for Ming, who was exhausted from a day's training. He was not heading back to his dormitory like everyone else. Instead, he was seen washing clothes with cold water. What's worse is that he isn't washing his own clothes but doing laundry for someone else. Suddenly, a tall and burly recruit walked in and kicked over his wash basin, spilling water everywhere. The recruit not only downplays Ming, but goes as far as calling him a fat ass. That wasn't it. The douchebag took off his socks and threw several other pairs of smelly socks onto Ming, telling him that today, Ming was supposed to do his laundry and finish it before midnight. What's happening here is obvious. Douchebag older recruit bullying new recruits. Ming looked at the soaked clothes and the garments scattered around him. He clenched his fists tightly, having heard of bullying within the military, but recently, the behavior of these older recruits had become intolerable. What made it worse was his inability to fight back. The military is a dangerous career. Thus, the military district often gives soldiers enough freedom, such as having a phone on duty. Seeing Ming's lack of response, the older recruit kicked the basin aside again, but at that moment, Ming's phone began to vibrate with a new message alert. It was no other than Lu Sheng. Ming was both surprised and stunned. The next second, he excitedly opened the messages to find a brief message from his best pal Lu Sheng. It read, "You're in the Eastern Military District now, right? I'll be there soon. Wait for me," followed by an emoji. The message filled Ming's heart with warmth, instantly washing away his fatigue and the awful feeling of being bullied. With excitement, he began typing a flurry of messages to Lu Sheng, only to delete them over and over again. In the end, he simply replied with one word, "Okay." After sending the message, Ming bit his lip, struck by a sudden thought. Meanwhile, the bully who had been bullying Ming, seeing no reaction from him, decided not to continue and lost his interest. Instead, he turned around and mentioned casually that he liked the scent of a certain brand of laundry detergent and advised Ming not to use the wrong one. While humming a tune, he turned around with his hands in his pockets. Ming, glaring at the basin on the ground, then back at the towering recruit, and finally at the messages on his phone, charged at the recruit in a fit of rage. His outburst took the bully by surprise, and the two immediately grappled with each other. Ming's punches were all over the place. Other than the initial punch, every other punch was blocked by the bully. However, the bully seized an opportunity to land a blow on Ming's cheek, sending him flying several meters. Seeing Ming crashing hard to the ground, the recruit ran over and pinned Ming down, landing punch after punch on him while hurling insults. Several minutes later, he finally stood up, leaving Ming motionless on the ground. The recruit cursed once more and walked away, warning Ming he'd beat him up every time he saw him. At that moment, a seemingly nerdy new recruit watched everything unfold, emerged from a corner, hurried over to Ming, and began checking on him. Unable to lift Ming's body, he kept asking how he was doing. Seeing Ming's swollen face, the recruit let out a sigh, puzzled as to why Ming would oppose someone who is stronger than he is, and had been here for over 2 years already. End of the day, it's just a few pairs of socks to wash. Clearly, the nerdy recruit chooses to wash socks rather than stand up for himself. However, Ming thought otherwise. Even in his disheveled state, Ming managed a prideful smile, saying his best friend was the National Martial Scholar, and would surely be a general in the future. Ming expressed concern that being Lu Sheng's friend, if he was bowing down and being bullied into washing socks, would lead to people taking the opportunity for his mockery in the future, not wanting to disgrace Lu Sheng in any way, shape, or form. He then laughed loudly, reminiscing about their shared past growing up, and how Lu Sheng, despite attending the prestigious Divine Martial University, hadn't forgotten him. The nerdy recruit stared at him for a few seconds, then shook his head, thinking Ming had lost his mind from the beating, and was rambling nonsensically. Meanwhile, on the other side, Lu Sheng once again entered the dream realm after completing a day's training. Finding a quiet place to sit, he then summoned Ai Yi to inquire about Ming's personal records. He remembered a month ago when he last checked Ming's record. He had chosen to enroll in a regular university and lead an ordinary life. However, this time, likely due to Lu Sheng's influence, a butterfly effect occurred, changing not only Lu Sheng himself, but also the life paths of those around him. Ming was one of them this time, Ming didn't choose to go to an average university, but opted to enlist in the military. No doubt a decision fraught with danger in this era, battling beasts on the front line, where the mortality rate was incredibly high. Lu Sheng felt a surge of worry, wondering if he had inadvertently caused harm to Ming. But as he delved deeper, Lu Sheng breathed a sigh of relief, and his smile grew wider. Turned out that Ming had been to the front lines multiple times, achieved numerous honors, and was eventually honorably discharged. With his severance pay, Ming started a small business and opened his logistics company. By the age of 50, he had amassed a fortune worth tens of millions, leading a successful career and a happy family life. He was happily married and had 3 kids, although he faced the misfortune of losing his wife in his later years and some setbacks thereafter. He ultimately led a fulfilling life, surrounded by his children and grandchildren, living to the ripe age of 90. Having gone through Ming's life record in its entirety, the last bit of worry in Lu Sheng's mind vanished completely. However, he felt that the best thing he could do for Ming right now was to keep his distance, as he believed this was the only way to not affect this happy future. He hoped that no further changes would occur in Ming's future, and that he could live a happy and long life. However, will this be the case? We will know later. Anyway, closing his eyes, Lu Sheng left the dream realm and returned to the real world. The following day quickly arrived, and Lu Sheng decided to visit his pharmacy in White Lake City and meet with his future wife, Ling Su. Ling Su had been diligently working to expand their pharmacy business, and to date, they boasted 500 branches throughout the entire Dongning province. Lu Sheng nodded in approval of Ling Su's efforts, telling her that she did a great job, and it was a right decision to let her in charge of the business. Behind his back, however, Ling Su rolled her eyes when he complimented her work. As they discussed further expansion, Ling Su presented an investigation report. It turned out that someone was sabotaging their business from the shadows, and Ling Su's investigation revealed the culprit to be the highly influential Chen family from the capital. Lu Sheng frowned, having anticipated such obstacles in the very beginning, yet he was not overly concerned. With a calm demeanor, he crumpled the investigation paper into a ball. In his mind, to mess with Ling Su was to provoke him directly, and he would soon make the perpetrators realize how foolish it was to cross him. Casually, he tossed the paper ball into a trash bin, causing Ling Su to be slightly dazed. Blinking a few times, she fixed her gaze on Lu Sheng. She could sense that in just 2 months, Lu Sheng had changed significantly. His confidence, composure, and dominance were even more attractive, making Ling Su's heart skip a beat. After a few minutes, Lu Sheng, dressed in a lab coat and carrying a box in his hand, entered the laboratory. With his psychic power, various ingredients from the box levitated and flew out. In the air, they neatly stood in front of Lu Sheng. He not only wanted to know the recent events from Ling Su, but his primary goal for the day was to formulate the latest supplement in preparation for advancing to the second stage of the immortal golden body. Quickly, he got to work. 2 days swiftly passed by. Next scene, we arrived at the World Trade International Hotel in White Lake City. Lu Sheng entered the lobby and made his way directly to the hotel front desk, intending to book a high-quality suite for the night. He was finally ready to reach the second stage of the immortal golden body to perfection. To avoid disturbances at home, he chose to rent a hotel room instead. He carried with him 120 freshly concocted supplements. As Lu Sheng was completing the check-in process, a figure approached the front desk. Judging by the scent of luxury brand perfume, the bright red nail polish, and her impressive pair of Boeing, also carrying a suitcase, it was a woman. She pulled out her bank card as well as her ID while asking for a presidential suite without hesitation. Lu Sheng sensed something and glanced sideways. Y'all must have been thinking about the pair of Boeing that attracted his attention, but obviously, that's not the case. Rather, he felt the intense blood energy emanating from the woman standing next to him, like a blazing furnace, only seen on grandmasters. The woman had blonde short hair with a tattoo on her hand, featuring the Roman numeral 9 with a sword piercing through it. Lu Sheng was slightly surprised. He hadn't expected a grandmaster to visit a small city like Whitewater City. What followed was the woman removed her sunglasses, revealing a beautiful face with long lashes over a pair of rare red eyes. The receptionist was momentarily taken aback by the blonde woman. Not only did she have an impressive physique and stunning beauty, but she appeared to be very wealthy. However, after confirming her presidential suite booking, The woman handed over her credit card with a smile. She was also humming a tune and seemed to be in a very good mood. The check-in was quickly completed, and the receptionist handed over the room card as well as the credit card, offering to have someone escort her to her room and carry her luggage. The woman, with a polite smile, waved her hands, declined the offer, and headed toward the elevator with her suitcase in hand. Lu Sheng observed the woman, finding it slightly surprising to see a grandmaster here in White Lake City. Although her blood energy level seemed slightly weaker compared to Vice Principal Zhao, at the end of the day, she was undeniably a legitimate grandmaster. Having completed his check-in as well, Lu Sheng also approached the elevator, where they exchanged glances. The woman looked at Lu Sheng with an intrigued and seductive gaze, while Lu Sheng thought to himself that grandmasters were no longer a concern for him. However, since the woman did not appear to be a threat, he decided not to pay her any more attention and shifted his gaze away as they both entered the elevator. Inside the elevator, the woman tapped her ear lightly with a finger. Turned out, she was reporting to someone that she had arrived at her destination. After a brief pause, she chuckled and mentioned to the person on the other end that she had encountered an interesting and quite handsome young man while checking into the hotel. This also piqued the interest of the person on the other end. Taking out a compact mirror and lipstick, she began touching up her makeup while mentioning that she couldn't gauge the young man's true strength, but he seemed to be quite powerful. She even speculated that he might be affiliated with the Dark Star. Either way, that's just her speculation. The woman's visit was primarily for a vacation while deciding to complete an easy task on the side. She didn't quite care who Lu Sheng really was, however, at the thought of anyone disrupting her holiday. She let out a cold smirk. After admiring her own reflection in the mirror and showing a satisfied smile, her expression revealed a trace of bloodthirst. Perhaps half-jokingly, she mentioned she might just have to devour anyone who dared to interfere with her plans. Oof, how you want to interpret her ways of devouring is up to your imagination. Shortly thereafter, Lu Sheng located his room, and upon entering with his room card, he was very pleased with the accommodations, especially the large bathtub, which he noted could comfortably hold all his supplements. Without delay, he poured all the supplements into the tub and scanned the room with his psychic power for any cameras before stripping down all the way to his underwear and stepping into the tub filled with the light golden liquid. The liquid slightly rippled as he relaxed and lay down, beginning to cultivate and absorb the energy from the liquid. As he did so, the supplements in the bath began to form a dragon shape behind him. The light golden liquid, filled with immense energy, quickly rushed into Lu Sheng's body. However, this did not cause any pain, only a profound sense of comfort for him. At the same time, Lu Sheng was not the only one enjoying a bath. In the expansive presidential suite, the sound of running water echoed from the bathroom. Not long after, the water stopped. The woman dried off her body with a towel, then draped herself in very thin clothing, displaying her impressive body. Yet instead of focusing on this, what we should be focusing on was the Roman numerals on her back. What did you think it represents? She lazily stretched out, while musing to herself that the 2 little mice-stealing gold mines had probably arrived in White Lake City by now. In response, she planned to deal with them swiftly before beginning to enjoy her holiday. Meanwhile, dense steam filled Lu Sheng's bathroom, and the temperature was frighteningly high. Through the mist, one could see the liquid in the bathtub gradually evaporating. With his perfect physique and rock-solid 8-packs, Lu Sheng continued to absorb the energy of the remaining liquid. At the same time, a halo was now visible behind him, indicating the completion of the second stage of his immortal golden body. He stepped out of the tub, the residual liquid tracing the contours of his muscles before slowly flowing down. Curious about his current body's strength, Lu Sheng tested it by trying to cut his arm with his spear, only to find a faint white mark that left no injury. Please, do not try this at home. Lu Sheng is a professional. Seeing the result, he concluded that not even a grandmaster using melee weapons could easily breach his defense. Evaporating the remaining liquid on his skin, he quickly got dressed while looking out the window, his body emanating powerful energy as he prepared to strive for the next level. He was getting insanely close to his goal. However, he took a deep breath to calm himself down, realizing that traditional martial artist level classifications might no longer apply to him. He was only one step away, but he wasn't ready to make that leap yet. He contemplated the disturbance his breakthrough would cause, potentially alarming even the great grandmasters. Since he had other plans in mind, he would have to wait just a little longer. Slowly opening the window, the night breeze from outside surged in, and in an instant, he jumped out from the window of the several dozen-story building. The end. Just kidding, however, please do not try this at home. At a crossroads not far from the hotel, a middle-aged man with a child hurriedly got into a taxi, urgently instructing the driver to head to the suburban area of the Western District. He appeared anxious and very tired, seemed like he hadn't slept for days. While the little girl seemed scared and hungry, however, she was very quiet, simply just clutching tightly at her father's clothes. The taxi driver, without any hesitation, nodded with a smile and started the car. The middle-aged man clearly didn't see the driver had a tattoo on his arms. If you look closely, this tattoo is identical to the one seen on the blonde woman earlier. As the taxi started moving, the man's anxiety seemed to lessen slightly, feeling temporarily relieved but still holding the little girl close in his arms. He whispered, looking out the window, "Have we finally escaped?" He then turned to the little girl, giving comforting words. After a while, feeling somewhat safer, the man nervously told the driver to stop there and offered to pay triple the fare, on the condition that if anyone asked about them, the driver should never mention having seen them. The driver didn't respond verbally, but instead gave a cold smirk, unbuttoned the top 2 buttons of his shirt, and removed what turned out to be a prosthetic face mask, revealing himself to be the blonde woman from the hotel. With a sinister smile, she said, "Finally caught the little mouse with the gold mine." The middle-aged man, holding the girl tighter in his arms, trembled all over, his face instantly turning pale with fear in his eyes. He recognized her as being from an organization known as the Loop Seal, and she was the 9th Seal, but he didn't have the chance to articulate her full name. Meanwhile, Lu Sheng reveled in the thrill of his enhanced speed, leaping between buildings without even needing to use his wind-breathing technique, moving so fast that perhaps even the military surveillance couldn't capture his movements. Shortly after, he arrived at an abandoned factory on the outskirts, a place ordered to cease operations years ago due to environmental concerns, making it an ideal spot for him to conduct his tests. As he was gearing up to throw a punch, a loud noise erupted from not too far away. Extending his psychic power, Lu Sheng detected the presence of a grandmaster. At the same time, a middle-aged man, clutching a little girl in his arms, was fleeing and running as fast as he could. He had a long wound on his back that was bleeding profusely, yet he didn't slow down in the slightest. The woman was in hot pursuit behind him, slicing through massive steel barrels as if enjoying the thrill of chasing her prey. The man was constantly screaming for help while running, his voice tearing through the silence. The little girl in his arms had blood on her face. With her eyes closed, she was trembling with fear. Desperation crept into the man's mind, doubting the likelihood of anyone coming to their rescue in such a desolate place. The blonde woman, with a light smirk, seemed to enjoy watching the stumbling man trying to escape with his life. Lu Sheng, however, found the situation peculiarly timely. A middle-aged man carrying a child, running for their life in the dead of night and in the wilderness, was chased by a grandmaster. Isn't this just perfect? Not only he could be the good guy and kick some ass, and it also presented an unexpected opportunity for him to test his abilities. With a swift movement, Lu Sheng darted towards the direction of the scream. The blonde woman suddenly halted her pursuit as a figure stepped out from the shadows. Sizing up Lu Sheng, she squinted, looking at him from head to toe. Standing about 10 meters away from the woman, Lu Sheng pondered whether he could defeat a 7th-level grandmaster using nothing but his physical strength, without employing any other skills or techniques.